we continue the conversation and reaction to the resignation of the Johannesburg Mayor, Kabelo Kwamanda. Lwazi Sikiti is with the South African Cities Network. Mr. Sikiti, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Listening to that conversation with the ANC in Johannesburg, where are the most pressing areas that need urgent attention from the incoming mayor, whom I suspect we will learn who they are by Friday?
Well, thank you, Polly, and thank you to you for having me. Yeah, there's a whole host of priorities that the new mayor will have to tackle, but perhaps let's start by giving some credit to the hardworking women and men who are in the employ of the city of Joburg as administrators and practitioners for being able to hold down the business of the city of Joburg in these very trying, testing political times that they have been enduring over the past. And then secondly, also the stakeholders, the political stakeholders do need to be given some credit for handling this matter in quite an amicable way, given that, the optics of governance are always more palatable when a mayor lives through a resignation as opposed to a motion of no confidence. So yeah, as Mr. Morero enters the fray, I think the biggest issue that's going to be on his to-do list is definitely going to be the wrapping up of the 2 billion loan from the AFD, which is pending approval, as well as also dealing with the backlash that the city has faced over the 200 Rand surcharge for prepaid meter users, among others. I think that.
All right. You would have heard the outcry over Kabelo Kwamanda's administration, that service delivery was worsening under him, and that's why there is now a grouping called the Johannesburg Crisis Alliance. What is it that was going wrong in the city of Johannesburg?
So, Toli, I think I can't pin it down to exactly Mr. Kwabanda's performance per se, but the city of Joburg is undergoing a whole host of challenges. One being the issue of the degrading infrastructure, or mainly electricity and water. And those are very costly items for any city to run and maintain. And yes, I mean, the ability of the leadership to offer the confidence and communicate at every step of the way during crisis times was one of the biggest things I think people perceived as a huge problem with the mayor. I mean, there was a time when people were asking, where is the mayor during times of really hard crisis, as seen perhaps in the explosion of the Bree Street incident, and many others, including the fire that took place in Marshalltown. So it's a question of leadership and governance, and I suppose that the residents of Joburg really want a leader that can inspire confidence. I mean, that can take them. Win back the trust of the residents in the city of Joburg, and who can also kind of reset the city back to and put it on a trajectory where it can really aspire to be a world-class city, which is its vision as it was envisaged in its business plan.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on the issue of decaying infrastructure, but also infrastructure that needs urgent attention when it comes to electricity, the electricity infrastructure. The 200 Rand surcharge, if you listened carefully to what Mr. Manganye was saying, is that that money was actually going to, or is being channeled towards refurbishing this infrastructure, revitalizing this infrastructure. But if that 200 Rand surcharge is now coming under review because of the complaints, and rightly so, from residents of Johannesburg, because the cost of living is becoming harder and harder. Where do you think that money is now going to come from if indeed the 200 Rand surcharge is going to be done away with?
Well, I think the financial position of City Power was hugely affected only by, obviously we've talked about the degrading infrastructure, but also there was a point in time when the grid system was really taking a knock from the constant outages. So I think they incurred humongous costs, and then coupled with cable theft and things like that, I think they really took a knock financially. And it had to come to some kind of a solution. And I think what then was always at question was this amount of, how was this amount of 200 determined? And was it actually consulted, and had it been taken through all the steps necessary that the Constitution requires local government to do when it imposes such surcharges? So I think the question is going to be what then becomes an agreeable consulted number, which is justified, and that can residents of Johannesburg can actually be taken through the finances and the books of the City Power to actually see what is it that this money is going towards, and what are they comfortable with. I think that's going to be where the conversation will be, as opposed to maybe a complete doing away of that surcharge.
Yeah. Let's conclude the conversation on the point that you made a little earlier, that what the city needs, or the residents need, is a leader that they believe in, a leader who is able to spring into action and explain things if there are things that are going wrong. Dada Morero, do you see him as fitting that profile of a leader that's visible and that's able to spring into action when trouble comes along?
Well, I can't say that thoroughly whether he will be the solution that everyone is gunning for, but I suppose only time will tell. And it's unfortunate that his stint as a mayor was short-lived in his previous foray into this mayorship. So I guess time will tell. And I think he's also entering this role with a lot of experience, having seen what has gone wrong and how not to be a bad mayor. So I suppose he will take notes and implement things differently to his predecessors, obviously capitalizing on what he perceives as their weaknesses and what the mood is, and bearing in mind that this is very important. It's not just a mayorship, because 2026 is around the corner, and there will be again a full-fledged local government electioneering machinery in action. So he needs to display the confidence if he really is serious about winning back the confidence of the residents of Johannesburg.
Lwazi Sikiti, thank you very much for your time. He is with the South African Cities Network.